Ah, hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. So sorry about the delay. I'm not sure what happened. I had to refresh my page and we're all set. So glad to be with you today. We're going to do a little cooking demo and a lot of flavor, a lot of conversation about deliciousness and savoriness. So welcome. Let me know where you're joining from. Also, just confirm that you can hear me and see me okay. Hello, awesome. Hi, Stephanie. So great to see you all here. The weather here is beautiful as always. I am in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, and loving it. So let me know where you're joining from. I've been here since October, and it's actually part of what is making my life so delicious. Of course, you don't need to escape somewhere tropical to be creating deliciousness in your life, but the point is that it's so much more than food. And so I am so grateful to be able to work with food and explain some of the science, not just of food as medicine, but also flavor science, and take people on a journey to creating the most delicious food for their health, and then showing them, how it's actually so much more than the food. So give me a thumbs up if you'd like the conversation now or at any point throughout. I'm going to be working on building up the brand. The culinary gym is actually being transitioned to the delicious living because it's more encompassing of everything I do. And so if you can support me in sharing the message, that would be fantastic. Just giving us a like makes a difference. But if you want to share this video with anyone and the Magic of Umami course, that would be appreciated, deeply appreciated. So we have the secret sauce we're making today. I made burgers on Thursday. We've made these revitalizing umami burgers. They are so good. I have like 6 or 7 different burger recipes. This one is by far my favorite. And you can freeze them. You can make them in big batches. I was thinking about making a batch and taking it to some, just friends along the strip on downtown on Memorial Day, letting them try my burgers and secret sauce, because I would love to start teaching locally here. But also I'm back at True North Health Center. If anyone's seen me at True North Health Center before in person or Dr. McDougall's program, I've taught it both for 10 years before the lockdown. So now I'm back at True North on a monthly basis. Let me know in the comments if you've ever been to one of my live classes. I'd love to hear from you. Awesome to see you guys all over the place in California and Arizona, Colorado, Washington. Fantastic. So we have these taste buds, these amazing taste buds that allow us to taste the sweetness, the savoriness of our food, which is amazing. And it's really a vehicle for, it's like a method, a process that helps our body thrive, because those taste buds signal to the brain that there's something coming in. We're going to let you know what it is, and then you can work the magic. The nervous system can work the magic to send the signaling to the rest of the body so that it responds appropriately, right? So that's what the taste buds do. And they also, in that process, part of the signaling to the brain is to light it up and tell us that's delicious. Have more of that, right? In our world for centuries, thousands and thousands of years, that system has worked so beautifully, so beautifully. It wasn't until the last 100 years, really the last 50, that it's been just out of control, right? So unnatural. We talk about the pleasure trap at True North Health Center. Dr. Alan Goldhammer and Doug Lyle wrote the book, The Pleasure Trap, that reveals and it's not the only book, but it's one of the few books that really hits the nail on the head with how processed our food system is and how the processed sugar, the oil, and the salt really light up the brain and get us trapped in this food attachment, or maybe even addiction if you resonate with that, and making us want more and more and more. And so I've like so many, have been very privy to that experience of food attachment and the cravings. And even for me, I really identified with the food addiction aspect of it. Growing up in Michigan on a standard American diet, by the age of, I talk about my ice cream addiction at 18 years old. Just crazy, 90% of my calories from ice cream. But it actually started, way earlier, when I was developing association of pleasure and having ice cream with my dad, kind of like not even movie nights, just watching TV on a weekly night, and having these big bowls of ice cream, and having that really a lot of comfort and a love around it. And so I built that association. But then, by junior high, I was walking 2 miles to get uh, a, a bottle of Pepsi and some cheesy chips. Now, that 2 miles is a long time to walk for food like that, and especially in the afternoon in the sun. But also, the Pepsi I was buying, the pop I was buying, was a 2-liter container, because it was 10 cents more for a 2-liter than just a 20-ounce bottle. And already that 20-ounce bottle is more than enough. But I would actually drink right from the 2-liter container on my way home. And that bottle was more than halfway gone by the time I got home. So I've definitely experienced a ton of processed food in my life, and I feel like I'm still detoxing from that. But it's not just a body detox; it's a mental detox and an emotional detox, energetic. And so I love this work. I love this. For me, it's like this work, and it's teaching how to eat healthfully. But it's become so much more than that, is what I've been saying. But it's also the inner work. As I'm teaching it, I'm doing the inner work, which is the most beautiful work that we can do, because when you heal, you help others heal. So I absolutely love doing this for myself and supporting others in the way. And really, you are your own healer. So anything I do is just facilitating, and it's an honor and a joy to be able to do that. So I'm excited. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm just kind of going to go throughout, and I can kind of be sometimes, my mind is going so much that I can jump between things. So I'm trying to take it slow and really take you on a little journey here, being very present rather than just hopping all over the place. But if you have any questions, let me know. My journey at True North Health Center was really the start. Well, actually, a little bit before that, with Dr. Gabriel Cousins, who was on the Raw Food and Plant-Based Summit that started this week. If you've seen Gabriel Cousins, I hear that he didn't actually get to see his presentation, but I hear that he was dancing joyfully, and I love that, because it's that power of food and a healthy lifestyle that gives us the joy and happiness, not just a clean diet. There's so much more to the power of food, and it's not just the flavor, right? And we learn that as we come into food as medicine, we realize that there's so much more to food, into creating happiness, and it's supporting our mood and our vitality more than just the instant pleasure that it would give us, right? So at True North, I was teaching these classes, these delicious cooking classes, and what I became known for was the flavor of my food, because I knew, coming from that addiction, I knew that it had to be really flavorful for people to be able to enjoy and sustain a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet. So my food right off the bat was really flavorful, more than the other people there. I also am a little bit of a rebel, and I can push the boundaries. So I asked Dr. Goldhammer if I could use nutritional yeast. He wasn't a huge fan, but he said yes, right? So I was all about that. And actually, for the first 3 years I was there, I hadn't even tasted nutritional yeast. It's not something I wanted in my life. It was over it was after actually leaving True North when I started dating someone and he brought nutritional yeast into my life. And then I started adding it in, right? And then I was justifying it as it being a fantastic food to help people transition to a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet. And it was over a period of time that I learned that nutritional yeast has a lot of power to it, just like white sugar does, right? On all food has a lot of power. We don't really think about it because it's just like the substance that comes in. We enjoy the flavor of it, we digest it, but these are the building blocks to the body that we have, whether it's a red bell pepper or the burgers I have here, or it's the white sugar or the nutritional yeast. This is what's building not only the body that we have, but also affecting the nervous system, which is our brain, which is linking to the mind, and then to our emotions and our energy. All of this is being affected by the food that we eat. And it's not just the physical components of the food, but also the energy of the food, which is one of the reasons raw food is so powerful. Or when you do healing over your food, you bless your food, you're putting positive energy in that food, that makes a difference. So thank you also for being here again. If you're just joining us late, I'm just getting started with a little bit of context for our Umami conversation, the course that's coming up, the Magic of Umami course. I'm going to share in the link to this if you want to join us. If you're just maybe finding us randomly on YouTube, awesome. This is my upcoming Magic of Umami course where we're going to dive into savoriness from a scientific standpoint and flavor in general, but also from the arts of creating delicious savoriness. So awesome, Francesca. I'm loving that you're loving the Plant-Based Summit. So the sauce we're going to make, I'll share the sauce recipe in a minute. It's really quick. It's really quick, really easy. There's a secret ingredient to my secret sauce. But before we dive into that, I want to share just more of the background, more of the, this conversation around flavor and it being used to create more happiness and more joy in our life. And even if we don't think about it unconsciously when we're choosing our food, most often that's what we're doing. We're thinking, that's what we're considering is our happiness. Now, if you've been doing this for a long time, and when I say happiness, as far as what we're considering unconsciously, it's our pleasure too. It's not just like a deep, lasting, steady happiness or a deep joy, but it's that instant pleasure, right? Unconsciously, we're like, what feels, what's going to feel good, right? As we adopt more of a healthy lifestyle and more importantly, a healthy mindset, we start to realize it's much more than that. And then we're eventually unconsciously considering the other factors as well. How is it going to nourish me? Is it going to give me lasting energy? Is it going to give me the nutrients, the building blocks to help me do repair? Is it going to be inflammatory, right? All of these things are things to consider. And the more you learn, the more you raise your awareness to nutrition, to energetics, to the power of food as medicine, also to your healthy lifestyle, to all the different factors that are involved, the more you raise your awareness, the more power you have to make a difference, to make different choices, to make choices that are supporting you. But also the more you raise your awareness, the deeper it goes into your unconscious, your subconscious. And when this information gets into your subconscious where you don't have to consciously or be aware of it in the moment, like your mind isn't necessarily thinking about it in a way that you recognize, you're not aware of it, but it's at a deeper subconscious level, then you can make those choices without effort, or that information is affecting you in a positive way without effort. That's what we want, right? And so I've been on this journey for 14 years think it was like 2008, I adopted a vegetarian diet first. And then 2010, I started a raw vegan diet. For 4 months, I did 100% raw vegan. And then I learned about with Gabriel Cousins. And then I learned about Dr. McDougall and True North Health Center. And I switched to plant-based and also sos-free as I started as a personal chef for a doctor in Washington. In Seattle, I was living with a doctor and being his personal chef, and he was SOS free. And so all of the food I made was SOS free. It was amazing. And during that time, I started learning about plant-based nutrition, right? And it was pretty quickly, I learned about the nutrient density and calorie density of our food. And it was like, oh, this is what we should be teaching our children. Because I went and got a master's in nutrition, which was amazing at Bastyr University, a naturopathic medicine school in Washington. But I also learned about nutrition in elementary school, right? But the nutrition I was learning did not serve me. And so when I learned about the nutrition in school, it didn't serve me. And even at Bastyr University, I learned so much anatomy, and I have a bachelor's in human biology because I wanted to be a doctor, actually a neurosurgeon. So it's hilarious to me. I love that I'm back here in neuroscience when I wanted to be a neurosurgeon in high school. So I have this background of the human body and chemistry and biology, physiology, and it's amazing. But what I learned at Bastyr University was only a small portion of the power of food as medicine from what I learned through working at True North Health Center, Dr. McDougall's, and actually seeing people adopt a healthy lifestyle and a plant-based diet and seeing them reverse the disease and seeing the numbers, the blood work on their charts come down, right? At Dr. McDougall's program, I was taking people's blood pressure and their vital signs on day one of the program and on the last day of the program. Within 7 to 10 days, depending on the program, we saw drastic drops in their blood pressure. We also got blood work done, so we saw the drops in cholesterol, and their TSH levels, so their thyroid levels, dropped in just 7 days through a healthy whole food plant-based diet, which at McDougall's was not gluten-free. If we would have instilled a strictly gluten-free diet, it would have dropped even more within such a short period of time. So it's just amazing to see that power of food as medicine. But it was even kind of further along on my journey where I did more of a dance with my own food and felt the experiences of food as medicine, but also food in creating disease, right? Or food-like products. But it wasn't just food-like products that was contributing to disease in my body. Depending on the period of time I was in, like where I was on my journey, some whole foods was also too much for me. You know, for you as well, you might have experienced, wheat being too much, even if it was whole wheat, even if it was whole grains might be too much, or legumes, or other issues. You might have to do low histamine or low FODMAP, where it's these whole foods that are healthy, natural, whole foods, unprocessed or minimally processed, and yet they're still contributing disease in the body. And it's not that those foods are bad foods. I don't like to use the words bad or good. It's just that the individual has certain processes happening in the body that is taking the material or even the energy from the food and processing it in a way that it's trying to support the body as best it can, and it can come up with symptoms to let you know that some of those things are not ideal for your body at that time, right? So it's very individual. And so for years, I was SOS free 100% when I first started at True North, or even actually before that with the doctor, where I was making his food SOS free. We were 100%, like no sugar in the house, no oil or salt in the house. The strictest things, like the salt that was in my curry paste that I had to be removed. I took the curry paste out of the home. I took the miso out of the home. Anything that had a little bit of salt in it, I took it out because I was going to be 100%. And I couldn't make any exceptions within my home. Otherwise, it was a slippery slope. And at the beginning of my journey, this is what I recommended for everyone. And today, I, for the most part, still recommend, especially if you have chronic disease, that you get your home as clean as possible in that regard. The differences that I see now is that not everyone is interested in being 100% or interested in optimal health or interested in totally reversing the disease as much as possible. Now, if you're here, most likely you want to reverse your diseases as much as possible. But once you start to learn what that really looks like, and you start to question things and you realize the resistance you might be coming up against, you might start to realize that there's benefits to some of these things you're having. And although you think you want it, there's part of you that is not ready for it yet, right? So depending on where you are, we want to have a lot of compassion for ourselves on this journey. But also, as I got further along on my journey and I was being, 100%, it started to be a disservice in some ways, where it's like if I wanted to feel healthier or I wanted to resolve a symptom more so, I would attribute that symptom or the lack of my healing or the slowness of my healing, maybe because I was impatient in certain things. I would attribute it to me not being good enough with my food, me not being clean enough, perfect enough. And, it comes down to being good enough. That's a limiting belief that so many people have, that I'm not good enough. And so then it would make me be stricter with my food and try harder, not to mention the shame and guilt that would come if I was going off plan, or especially as someone teaching this lifestyle and preaching it, and then to think that I wasn't walking the walk as much as I needed to, was really hard. And so what I learned is it just didn't come down to the food only. There were other pieces that needed to be incorporated, right? So our physical activity and our sleep, those are two general things, but there actually is a lot to them. And people kind of, depending on their personal preferences, they might kind of swipe it aside or think that they're doing it well enough and not worry about it. But there's also other things as far as like your emotions. How are you handling your emotions, your energy? And aside from that, just going back to the food specifically, there's certain instances where the salt is going to make a bigger difference, or the oil is going to make a bigger difference, or the sugar, or the protein, which we haven't even talked about yet, but that's what my passion is really around: the protein, not just processed protein, but and only one aspect of my passion, but it's what ties in flavor to our nervous system, right? And so this processed protein is really amazing flavor. So the savoriness that we enjoy with whole foods is coming from protein. That's why we are drawn to that's why we're drawn to that flavor. The sweetness tells us that there's sugar there. Our body wants to use it for glucose. Well, the savoriness tells us that there's protein there. And so we're drawn to it to create, to bring in more of that protein and be able to create with it. But when we're talking about processed protein, it's a whole nother story. Just like processed sugar is completely different than white sugar, right? Can anyone relate to this? You guys, first, before we get into the protein things, everything I was just saying about the perfection, have you had that experience where you're like, I just need to do it a little bit better? I just need to tweak this. If only he wouldn't bring this in the house, or she wouldn't bring this into the house, then I could do what I'm supposed to be doing, right? Putting the blame off on someone else. Or if I just get past this time in my life, if the stress was just less when I I graduate from this program, or I I'm able to leave this job, I'm able to retire, then I can finally take care of myself when the kids go off to school, when. So it's something, that's so beautiful. The journey is just as amazing as any destination that we could possibly reach. I heard this quote yesterday and I love it. It was, life is short, don't waste it, breathe it in and taste it. And I was like, that's delicious living. We have this amazing life and we're missing it by trying to get to a destination and overthinking it, literally overthinking it in our brains, analyzing how can we do it better. And when I say this, I'm speaking to myself. I am on this journey with you, over analyzing and thinking about how to do it differently, how to improve and do things better. What other thing I need to buy, what supplement I need to take to improve things, right? How can I do this better? What should I be eating? Should I be fasting? Should I wait until a certain time to eat? All of these questions that come up, especially when we're more conscious and aware, we learn things and then we want to do better. And so we have all this information to consider. And then we want to learn new things and we want to read books, and we've got all these podcasts and YouTube and summits and so much stuff to listen to that we're in our mind, constantly in our mind. We need to get back into our body. We need to be sensing the life that we're living. I just got chills. That's where we taste the deliciousness of our life. If we can actually sense it. If we're in our minds so much analyzing, we can't actually pick up the signals that are coming from our nervous system throughout the rest of the body because we're so much in the brain. But our nervous system and our mind is actually all over the body. But we're so focused, and it's not just in the brain. Like I said, it's all over the body. But we're so focused on the analyzing that we're missing the sensing what's happening in our lives, from literally, the aroma in the air to the person that we're speaking to, seeing and making a connection to their eyes, right? And if you are having that eye contact, real eye contact, you're sensing more than just a visual, reflection of their eyes and them. You're actually sensing their soul, right? That's the gate to the soul. And there's so much here to sense. The physical, everything we have, like even these little bracelets I'm wearing, there's energy. There's energy everywhere, and there's stimulation, and there's beauty, and there's love, and there's joy, and there's so much, even the hard stuff, the challenges that make us grow, the anger, the frustration, the uncomfortability that all pushes us for our evolution. And it's all so delicious. We can't have the light without the dark. We can't have the joy, the happiness without the challenge, the struggle, the uncomfortability. Just like with food, we can't have something so sweet or pure umami without a little bit of tang or bitterness, the saltiness, the things that wouldn't be so delicious on their own. But when you package it all together, it's fucking amazing, right? This life we have is amazing. And if we're not present to it, if we're too much in the mind, too much living in the past or the future, and we're not here in the present and in our body, in the present, in the body and sensing, we're missing out. Right? I love what Peggy says, lose your mind to come to the senses. Yes. And it's so funny. It's like a paradox because I keep saying how this work and healthy living and in healing is so much more than the food, so much more than the physical body. We need to be taking care of our mind and our energy. And through the taking care of our mind and energy, I'm encouraging to get back into the body, right? So we can use those senses to pick up more and to live. So it's so intertwined. You can't separate any of it. So we're going to make our sauce here. Promise, we're going to make the sauce. But I wanted to give you that context, and because So let me know if you have any questions about any of this. And we're going to go into the magic of umami. I'm going to tell you what's involved in the course and every, everything with that, but also coming back to the savoriness and the protein, that connection, and why this matters so much. Because I think I didn't even tell you the nutrient, what I wanted to tell you earlier, like I said about jumping around a little bit, the nutrient and density of our food. That's what we should be teaching in elementary school, right? Nutrient density, calorie density. We should be teaching those things to our children so they can have that very basic understanding of their food and let it sink in to the subconscious early on. Then they can make better choices all throughout their life. Well, what I've learned over the last several years, I've been studying savoriness and this topic of the excitatory amino acids for years. What I've learned is that it's that important as nutrient and calorie density. And it's not just like, it's not a glutamate scale that I would make for people to show them like what level the foods are, what level of glutamate they have, which that would be nice. But it's more about the cumulative effect of everything in our life that is contributing to stimulation. So it's really a scale of stimulation to relaxation within the body and everything that's contributing to that. And so in this course, we're going to go over the science of what I'm talking about here with the stimulation, how that involves the amino acids from our food, the savoriness from our food, as well as all the environmental toxins that are contributing to inflammation, as well as the lifestyle behaviors that we choose, whether it's practicing yoga or meditation, or it's taking CBD, or it's having tea at night, it's running a bath for yourself when you're feeling down, whether it's, cuddling up in the back porch with a good book, connecting with friends over dinner. All of these things, having a glass of wine at night, watching your favorite movie, all of these things are contributing to the nervous system's level of stress and relaxation. And it ties into our food. Our food choices depend on the life that we're living. The effect of our food choices are being impacted, influenced by the rest of our life, because it has a cumulative effect, right? So this is where people ask me about whether I'm 100% SOS free, and my recipes have been 100% SOS free 99% of the time, 99.9% of the time for the last 14 years since I started this. At True North Health Center, all of my recipes were SOS free in those classes. So naturally, I made all of my recipes SOS free, unless there was an instance where I really wanted to use miso or tamari because it was an Asian dish and there's no other way to capture the umami in that same way. And so I made it an optional ingredient, and you could leave it out. The funny thing is, as much as we should be SOS free, what's not included in that label, that term SOS free, is umami, or the processed version of umami, which would be refined glutamate. And that matters as much, if not more, than the processed sugar or the salt or the processed oil in the diet, depending on the person. The glutamate is stimulating the nervous system, not just in the physical, not just in the brain, not just in the form of MSG, in all forms of glutamate, which is an amino acid, the most prevalent amino acid in our food system, without a doubt, hands down. Look up 5 different foods. You'll see, by and large, the amino acid glutamate is the #1 amino acid in our food supply. So to think that you may not need this course, or you may not need an understanding, you don't have to take my course for it. You can look it up. You can do some research. The thing is, most of the online resources are going to tell you false or partial truths. I should say partial truths. They'll tell you some truth and they'll leave out the part that you really need to know to have it make a difference. It matters for every single one of us because it is the most prevalent amino acid in our food supply. But more than that, it's the most abundant, most powerful neurotransmitter in our body, especially in the brain and in our nervous system. Next would be glutamine, which is interchange. They can convert easily back and forth, glutamate and glutamine. Glutathione is the most powerful master antioxidant in the body. Also can be converted back and forth between glutamate and glutathione. Right? Glutamic acid is the form of glutamate where it's actually connected to the rest of some other amino acids to create a protein. So there's a little bit of difference there. Generally, those are the same, glutamate and glutamic acid, where glutamine is a completely different amino acid. Glutathione is an antioxidant. And GABA also can be converted from glutamate to GABA. It happens all the time, constantly. GABA is the calming neurotransmitter. So it is the inhibitory neurotransmitter. And so all of these are like the most powerful players in our body, some of the most powerful players in our body. And very few people are aware of them. So if you're just joining us, anyone, Angela, hi, thank you for being here. We need to know this information. We need to know it in our subconscious so we can make choices in our lives, whether it's with the food or the products that we're buying, the activities that we're doing to support the level of relaxation and stimulation we're giving our body. And I am not saying glutamate is a bad thing. I'm not saying glutamate is something to avoid. That's like saying we need to avoid sugar, right? Depends on the context, depends what type of sugar you're talking about. Sugar in the form of white sugar, there's by and large fantastic reason to cut it out completely for the rest of your life. And for some people, that's not essential. You can have little bits here and there. You can, and have it be, a very healthy thing in your diet, in your lifestyle. Same with salt, same with oil, right? You have to learn the context. You have to learn the science that we should be teaching in elementary school, but we're not. And so now's the time to learn it so that you can do better for yourself, but also hopefully share it with your friends and family, and hopefully get it to the kids before they're sick, before they leave the home and start preparing and shopping on their own. Right? Okay, I'm gonna make sauce. I've done so much. But if you want to join me, I'm going to put the link here again. You join me right now for the Magic of Umami class. It's $99, but there's a payment plan for $39. You'll get lifetime access to it. And I am expanding it. I'm adding to it. I just learned some big things yesterday, a couple of big things that rereading the same material, because I know so much more now. I'm picking up on other nuances. So this is a university level class. Like literally I could teach it at a university, and I probably will. Bastyr University or another school, a culinary school would be, fantastic, but also somewhere where they really care about their health, because it's that impactful. It's mostly more science to start with, and then we get into the culinary arts of making more of the savoriness and everything like we're about to do here with our sauce. So yeah, what foods have umami? What do you guys think? Which foods have umami? Walnuts and mushrooms are fantastic sources. I'm not going to share more until I hear more from you guys in the comments. Let me know. Oh, Yolanda says, if processed foods are bad, how can they be good for your health? So I'd love to dive deeper into that, like which processed foods. Some may be more of an optional thing that's good for your health than others, or more like have more leeway. But the effect of the food on your energy makes a difference. If you have a glass of wine that I do not believe is healthy for you, and yet I do know that it increases the blood flow, it improves your circulatory system, so it actually brings more energy into your heart and opens your heart up more. That's why for many reasons, people love having a glass of wine. But if you're having a glass of wine with friends and it's opening your heart up and you're relaxing and you're enjoying yourself, the effects of that is going to be often after one glass of wine, it can be more beneficial than you not having the wine. And I don't drink. I can't tell you the last time I had a glass of wine, so I'm not promoting wine, but I'm saying that there are some times where the effects of the food go beyond the the nutrition that you might weigh all the pros and cons of the food at a nutritional level, and the outcome may be one thing, but if then you consider the context that you're having it, the energy of the food, the effect it's having on you, it might be different, right? Anyone give me another example of where that happens? Wine is a fantastic example. Cacao, same thing. The cacao, for some people, the stimulation of cacao might be, you know, not positive from a healthy standpoint, especially if you're having it on your own and consuming it in kind of just ad libitum, where you're having as much as you want, no control, no stopping yourself, versus having it with friends and family in a small amount or with loved ones and really enjoying it and cherishing it. And again, having a similar effect on your nervous system. And it actually has a lot of magnesium, so it relaxes your muscles. And so depending on the context, and what type of chocolate are you having? Is it with any sugar added, or is it just cacao and you're having it with within something else that it's more positive, or just cacao and even water, like they do in cacao ceremonies, a sacred cacao ceremony where it's literally a sacred food and you're coming into more connection with a higher power, your higher self, and really feeling the energy, right? So there's so much that goes into the food. We're going to make the sauce, okay? And I'm going to flip my camera. I think we're gonna have to turn. What I was wanting to say about our sauce, and the point was how our food is really, the effect of our food is influenced by the rest of our life, right? Because we are like multifactorial, these just intricate, brilliant beings that is taking into consideration everything that is being input into our body, even the things that we're not aware of, the energy we're picking up, the things in our environment coming through the nose, through our skin, through our feet. We're picking up so much that we don't realize it. There's absolutely no way we can control our nervous system solely based on the food, or our health for that matter, solely based on the food that we're consuming. So what we're having within our food, what we're allowing to come in consciously, can be influenced, can vary depending on the rest of our life, right? And if you take a better care of yourself and the other choices that you're making, then you have a little bit more freedom, a little bit more leeway, I should say, within your food and your capacity to handle a little bit more processed or a little bit richer flavor, typical traditional richer flavor, through whether it's refined. And it doesn't have to be just refined. When I say richer flavor, it's anything that's stimulating the nervous system. So refined sugar is more impactful with sweetness than an apple, because it has more refined sucrose molecules or glucose or fructose molecules that are stimulating your taste buds. But if you process your fruit into jam, and then you add it to a baked good plus some dates plus some white flour, and you make it super sweet black bean brownies or something like that, that is going to have a sweetness, a rich sweet effect that could contribute to inflammation or disease in the body relative to other things, and influenced by the rest of your life. Does that make sense? Yes. Sorry again, if you're just joining us, thank you for being here. We lost you on YouTube. I was going to start another video on YouTube just in case anyone was joining us, but that might make it even more confusing. So that being said, with an SOS-free diet, it even like a plant-based diet, whether you're having, we say plant-based, or if you want to use the term plant-powered, plant-centered, it doesn't need to be 100% perfect. The way that we try to be perfect in society actually creates, and I'm speaking generally, but as someone who dealt with the idea or desire for perfection, or just being enough, being better enough, right? It didn't have to be perfect, but it had to be a pretty high level where it would be accepted and I would be loved and I would be, be doing good enough for myself as well, that it had to be this high standard. And if I couldn't meet that, then all of the negative feelings and negative beliefs about myself would come crashing down. Let's share the recipe. Sorry, I'm sharing it. I'm going to share the recipe in the replay as well, or in the email, follow-up email with the replay. But my point is, my secret ingredient in this recipe is not something that I have on a regular basis, because the idea of a secret sauce is not something that you're going to have on a daily basis. If that were the case, it wouldn't be so special. Now, it could still be a secret sauce, right? You could, whether you know the ingredient or not, if you're doesn't matter. The kind of uniqueness and specialty of a secret sauce is the fact that it's really amazing flavor. It tastes amazing, right? If it's something you're having on a daily basis, your body gets adjusted to that flavor, and then it's not so enticing. It's not so desirable or craveable. It's not so enjoyable because you've already adjusted to it. So you would need to increase the intensity of the flavor of the secret sauce to enjoy it to the same level, because our body, our nervous system adjusts, our nervous system adapts. And so the secret sauce has an ingredient in here that I love and I use in my diet, although we would not use it at True North Health Center because it's not salt-free. But I can have it in my system in small amounts, depending on various things, right? Does anyone know this ingredient that I'm referring to? I've already mentioned it on the call. We've already had it posted in our chat here. It's an umami rich ingredient that has salt in it, as I just mentioned. You can give a guess to it. It's an optional ingredient, so you don't need to put it into the recipe. And I'm going to give you other umami, delicious umami, savory ingredients that you could add instead. It's not nutritional yeast, Ricky, but that is a good one. Similar things with nutritional yeast as with this one, but I would say this one is a more nutritious. Yes, miso. It's been around for centuries. Very, very traditional food. It's got the umami in it, but it also has some salt, and it's got a lot of, depending on the quality who made it and how it was processed and everything, it may even have probiotics. And it's very, like I said, very traditional food that can be very nourishing, to the body. But your ability to handle a little bit of refined glutamate and salt and be able, like I said, be able to handle that in a positive way, so you have the capacity to enjoy the other benefits of miso. And this could be with the same with other foods as well, just like with low fat, like FODMAPs and histamine. Some people are going to react to certain levels and they can't have certain foods in their body because, or in their diet because of it. But hopefully, like ideally, you're able to handle those ingredients to some capacity so that you can take in the other benefits that come with those foods. Does that make sense? This is going to vary depending on your lifestyle in the moment, in that day, but also within the week, the month, maybe the year, depending on what else is happening in your life, right? So recipe is coming. We're going to make this sauce, put it in here, and we've got Just a few ingredients, not many ingredients here. And apologies for the switch in my camera, because I did have one that would allow me to show you more of my screen here. This is, and I've called this recipe Katelina's secret sauce. Katelina's secret sauce. Katelina, however you want to say it. Katelina. Katelina is the Mexican for Katelin. And here in Mexico, I go by that sometimes, but I'm actually loving this spelling of Katelina, which is unique with a K and K-A-T-E. So it's like my unique spelling of Katelin with an A at the end. So that's my, maybe a new alter ego. All right, you've got the recipe there. I shared it in the chat. I'm gonna all download that. We are going to put in, I've got my little Vitamix here. Back my screen up a little bit. You can't print it. It's a PDF file, but you don't, or it's a Dropbox link, but you don't need to have a Dropbox account to be able to access it. In the top right corner, you should be able to download it regardless. So we've got, to start off here, we've got cashews as our base. If you want to use something else like tahini, that would work. I'm just going to strain out my cashews here. Or if you want to use something else entirely, no nuts, no seeds, you can do that with a little bit of like a steamed cauliflower or steamed potato, or white beans would be fantastic. My first choice would probably be white beans, but if you want to do a mixture of any of those, you're welcome to do that as well. So our recipe here, like I said, we are gonna do half a cup of water as well. Actually, the recipe, depending on how thick you want it to be, you may only want to add 1/3 of a cup. Start with less, start with 1/3, and then you can always add more. You can't take it off, can't take it out, right? We're gonna do a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And some tomato paste as well. So in the Magic of Umami, I have 50 different recipes, over 50 different recipes for you that are all umami rich. You guys listed some great umami ingredients and you just got started, because there is savoriness in so much, right? It's just a level of question of intensity, how much, and also your taste buds. What are you noticing? What are you picking up on because of how sensitive your nervous system is? And it's not just your taste buds, but also the rest of your nervous system. How sensitive is it to the savoriness in your food, but also the savoriness in your life? So I encourage you to join me for the Magic of Umami course to learn all of the different food sources of umami. I mean, our vegetables, our legumes, even some of our fruit. There's a couple fruits that have more umami. Most of our fruit doesn't have umami, but there's a couple that do. You can sub the cashews with white beans, or I mentioned steamed cauliflower or steamed potato, because you just want a creaminess. Like I have a recipe, I have a cheese sauce made with sweet potatoes, right? So you can make sauces with steamed vegetables if you want, like even steamed zucchini would work. It's going to affect the flavor and consistency, obviously, but if you're not doing nuts in dishes like this, then you're already kind of adjusted
your taste buds, not just your taste buds, but your sensual system in your mouth is picking up on texture and other things, not just the taste of the food, then those other alternatives will be more suitable to you. Oh, sorry. Yes, what did I add here? This tube is tomato paste. And I think I only added 1 tablespoon. I want to do 2 tablespoons. Tomato paste is one of the richest sources of umami as far as whole or minimally processed plant foods. So tomato paste is a fantastic option. And tell me, like, you guys, who feels familiar with umami? Does anyone feel like really familiar with umami? Like thinking they've kind of already mastered it even. They're just looking for more umami rich recipes and they've already understand umami. Does anyone feel like that? Just totally curious. So tomato paste, 2 tablespoons, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. We're gonna do a tablespoon of the miso, white miso. Is anyone familiar or not familiar with miso? Like especially familiar with it, like loves it? And anyone this is like brand new, has never had of miso, heard of miso, tried miso. Miso soup is popular, but I'm not a huge fan of miso soup because I want more than just miso, but I love it as an ingredient in things. And I can have a little bit in my diet without being affected too much because I take care of myself in other ways. My food is really clean. In other ways, and I don't like that term clean food, but it's the best way easiest way to talk about when we're trying to talk about the purity of our whole food lifestyle. It being clean or pure is a way to say it's more wholesome, less added stimulating or refined ingredients like the refined glutamate, which is not like they're not putting MSG in miso, right? There's no MSG in miso. It is created naturally through the production of miso. The way it's created from soybeans and fermented, it naturally creates free glutamate. Okay, and that's what we're doing in the kitchen. When we create our food, our savory dishes, we're creating umami. Whether you're roasting something or you're stewing something, whether you're dehydrating something, you're fermenting something, you're creating free glutamate. It's fantastic. And it could be too much depending on where you are, but it's certainly too much in our food supply. If you're using veggie burgers from the store, if you're buying protein products, if you're buying processed fake meats as alternatives, transitionary food, or just your main staple for protein, if you're using these foods, you're getting free glutamate in your diet. I suggest learning about the effects and what and how it matters and the different forms, how it makes a difference, the form it's coming from. Awesome. Yeah, Marcia, I leave it out too. I almost never use it. Look at this bag. By the way, I want to please look at this bag. This is the only size bag I could find at the grocery store here. And I've used it for class on Thursday and today and one other time in the last 6 months. Like since I bought it, I've used it 3 times. I almost never use miso because I don't care for it in my diet. But if I'm wanting to have a more savory effect where it's like just that, ooh, so delicious kind of secret ingredient thing, then I might use it. I don't have to, but I might. Alternatives to the miso, I mentioned alternatives to the nuts. Alternatives to the miso would be, you know, like what I'm adding in here, bell pepper. This is going to give us a lot of flavor. I'm going to add in, it's about My recipe says half a cup, I think, of bell pepper, half a cup chopped. So it's kind of, now I've got about a third of a bell pepper I just put in here. And I'm going to add in a little bit of onion and garlic granules. Now, for more savoriness, though, that bell pepper could have been roasted, give us more savoriness. Or you could have added roasted tomatoes for more savoriness. Or another roasted vegetable would give more savoriness. Or a little bit of liquid smoke, right? There's so many pieces here. We're just getting started. In the Magic of Umami course, you're going to go learn more about this. How to layer in the different ingredients and how to create that savoriness without ingredients like the miso, or if you want to use the miso, how you're going to do that in a way that's really supportive to you, right? For me, the science is just fascinating. It's so fascinating because it's like the base is neuroscience, our nervous system, neurology, and the effects start in the nervous system, contributing to our mental health and well-being, the joy that we experience, like the stimulation, the excitement, and then it goes into anxiety and tension and the mental disease, mental illness. And then into all of the other systems of the body. The endocrine system is affected, our metabolism, the reproductive system, our circulatory system, our muscular system. All of the body is affected. So to me, that's just fascinating, but also that it ties into flavor is fascinating. And the other environmental toxins in our life also, from what you put on your skin to what you're breathing, those things not only can contain refined glutamates, and they actually put it into our agricultural system for the purpose of growing things bigger, faster. So it is in our agricultural system, but they also use it in other industries. They use it and they put it, or they actually do the opposite in the pharmaceutical industry. Often they're trying to minimize the effects of glutamate. And so a lot of drugs are being manufactured, patented, sold, and they're already on the market, and more are coming to influence the level and effect of glutamate in the body to help control disease. Which really we know the pharmaceutical industry has very little like desirable outcome as far as disease goes. They're not reversing, they're not curing disease. They're just treating it, managing it. And by managing it, I mean poorly managing the disease. Often it's progressing, right? They're just managing it enough to keep you tricked to thinking that the drugs are having an effect. And most of the positive effect could be just the placebo effect, which is your mind, right? Sorry, onion and garlic granules, yes. Teaspoon of each, onion and garlic granules. And if you don't have the granules, onion powder works, garlic powder works. I actually did use onion powder. I didn't have the granules. If you want a little extra spice, smoked paprika is an option. Just a little bit will go a long way. Half a teaspoon maybe. Or if you want a little spice, red pepper flakes would be my choice, but cayenne or another chili powder would work. My preference would be smoked paprika or red pepper flakes though. And red pepper flakes, I'd really only start with about a quarter teaspoon. Depending on how much spice you like though, you might want more. All right, so we've already got our water added. We just need to blend this up a little bit. And I'm gonna put it on my burgers I have here. The burgers are cold actually, I haven't heated them. But they're delicious still. I took them out of the fridge. I had one for breakfast, cold, delicious. And I didn't give you the burger recipe that's coming. Let me blend this and then I'll give you the burger recipe. Any questions? You guys, what do you think about this umami conversation? Because as fascinated as I am, I'm not really sensing any fascination on your end. And it may just be in your mind and you're not sharing it. Because I've been here teaching recipes. So that's generally what this community is about, recipes and and the flavor in our food, but I'm telling you, the flavor in your food that you're experiencing matters on the sensitivity of your taste buds and your nervous system, and that matters based on what you're putting in. So you've got to learn about the umami and savoriness as much as you know, if not more. I highly suggest more than you know about sugar, because it matters so much more. All right, I'm blending this up. Scrape down the sides and blending one more time. Ooh, that smells so good. All right, I have another recipe that this is similar to. It's called a romesco sauce. Has anyone had a romesco sauce? Romesco is typically made with bread, though. And so I made a version that was made with almonds instead of bread. And this smells a little bit like that because it's tomato and bell pepper based. So good. This is so good. I'm going to show you. Now, I only added a third cup of water, about a third of a cup. If you want it thinner, you can add more. Also, my nuts weren't soaking for that long. You can't see this too well, but the nuts aren't totally creamy. So I can blend this for longer in the Vitamix, but also if I would have soaked them for longer, would have made it a little bit creamier faster. So good. So good, so good. Maggie, yes, Maggie's taken the Magic of Umami course, and like she said, it blew her mind. That's literally what I think. My jaw drops again and again. I cannot count the times that my jaw literally drops by the impact that this molecule has on the body. Billions of dollars within the food industry put into this molecule and its prevalence in the food supply, billions, and the same in the pharmaceutical industry because it is that impactful. And it literally, it frustrates me that people don't see it. So if anyone is in the marketing industry, I would love you to come on board and help me get the message out there, because I got to package this in a way that people care, to get people to care, because it matters so much. It matters. Not only should kids be learning about it in the school system, but parents should be learning about it, because the way that we're treating ADHD, the way that we're treating mental health conditions, depression, addiction, anxiety in our children, let alone the adults. The adults, it's horrible there too, but in the children, it's so much worse because the impact is stronger at a younger age, and the effects are going to be much greater when we treat the children wrong, when we treat them with drugs or we treat them with something else and not address the root cause. It's going to create more dysfunction and side effects to begin with, like in the moment, but also the long stream effects are going to be so much worse, so much worse. I can't express, literally, words do not fit my feelings around the importance of this. I know, Maggie. How do you wake people up? Okay, so this, you can use fresh garlic and onion if you want. The reason I'm using dried granules here is because of ease, really, because you could add them raw if you wanted to, but I would recommend if you're going to use onion and garlic to cook it first. Most people do better with cooked onion and garlic rather than raw, but if you want it raw, you can do that. You would just need to add less, obviously. I would do three times the amount of fresh to dried. So we did 1 teaspoon of garlic granules. You could do 3 garlic cloves. We did 1 teaspoon of the onion granules. You could do 3 teaspoons of diced, which would be 1 tablespoon of diced onion. What do I use it for? On a burger like this, so delicious. I'm going to take a bite. But it can also, you thin it out. It could be a dressing. It could be a sauce to drizzle over things. This is more like a spread right now. You don't want it too thin on the burger because it'll be more like a sloppy Joe. But so good, the flavor. You could put it over pasta if you want, gluten-free pasta, zucchini noodles. You could put it over baked potato. The burgers, you can put it on buns if you want, but the bun, so much white flour, it takes away from the flavor of the burger. I would do just a little bit of lettuce if you want to, or over a salad even, or like what I'm doing, literally just having it like this. If you want to top it with some sprouts, some seeds, a pickle, and onion, tomato, avocado, all of that delicious. I really don't like buns because they just take away the flavor. Salsa mixed in the burger meat is fantastic idea, especially for like a Mexican flavored burger or Southwest burger. Okay, I will give you the burger recipe. My apologies. I encourage you to join us for the Magic of Umami class, though. If you haven't done that, I'm going to share the link so you can join us there too. A bell pepper substitute, if you can do tomatoes, obviously that would be great, but you're avoiding nightshades altogether. I was just going to say eggplant, but eggplant is a nightshade as well. So the nightshades have more savoriness than some of the other vegetables. That's what I'm realizing. Oh my God. I mean, I noticed that I knew this before, but just made my connection of like why that's the case. Why? So nightshades have more savoriness. Do you know what that means? Someone tell me in the comments what that means when I say nightshades have more savoriness, which is true than a lot of the other vegetables. What does that mean? Like, what's the first thing it means? And then what's the other effect? You can guess that. Well, like what? Exactly. Ricky, Maggie, and it's more glutamate. It has more savoriness. It has more glutamate. Now, what's the impact of that? Let's think about all of the allergenic foods in our diet. The top allergenic foods. You guys list out, there's like 8 of them, but see what you can list out as far as the top allergenic foods. I'm gonna put in the burgers. Sorry, I'm thinking what I'm looking up here. Dairy is definitely one of them. Nuts, shellfish. Yep. Peanuts, nuts in general. Corn, corn's not at the top of the list compared to the other ones. I think it's like the secondary, but definitely at the top of the secondary ones. Wheat. Okay, what do these have in common? They're all high in glutamate. Here's the burger recipe. The allergenic foods. Why would they just randomly, these foods, be allergenic? Like up until I learned about this, I thought it was just random. Like these foods, you know, I actually never thought about it. But I took a master's in nutrition with a focus on healing the body, with, you know, a focus on, I had a naturopathic school where it was like, we're going to heal through food. Food is medicine. And we never talked about what they had in common, which you think would be an important piece if someone really wants to be addressing the root causes and not just, and actually understand how the body's working and everything so that they can be healing disease as it comes, rather than like a textbook, you're just learning the text, this disease, this treatment, this disease, this treatment, right? That's the way doctors are prescribing medication. I can diagnose this, then I can give you this medication. If you want to understand the body, you want to understand a healthy diet, we need to understand the fundamentals, not the science. Science is really just the study of something, but we need to understand the biochemistry, the physiology of like how it's impacting. And so what the allergenic foods have in common is that they're rich in refined glutamate. So they have more savoriness. We want to have more of them in our diet because we love that savoriness. But in the body, that refined glutamate is contributing to inflammation. If someone doesn't have inflammation in the body due to other things, infection, environmental toxins, stress, fantastic. They have no excess inflammation, fantastic. They have more capacity to hold inflammatory or potentially inflammatory foods. That would be meaning glutamate-rich foods. If you have less inflammation, less disease in the body, you can handle more umami-rich foods. If you have more chronic disease, more inflammation, more infection, anything that could be contributing to inflammation or glutamate within the body, you have a lower capacity for refined glutamate or savoriness in the diet. Yes, so sorry, I went on a spin-off about the eggplant. You can use squash as a replacement for eggplant. So basically what you're trying to do if you're avoiding the nightshades is to find the other foods that would give you the most umami, but also the most similar consistency as the food that you're replacing. Yes, Jeff, most of the recipes I deliver in the course are umami rich. So they're going to be, but different levels. And I emphasize the importance of reducing the umami richness, just like we're reducing the sweetness for people that are healing the body. There's a place, True North Health Center is an amazing place. It's water fasting only, right? And of course, you can do juice and just eat the food and it's all healing. But there's also another place in Mexico that is specifically for reversing cancer. Does anyone know this place? It's the blanking on the name right now, but I love the center, and there's centers all over the country. Some more now, water fasting centers. Rancho La Puerta is fantastic, but no, not that one. I don't know. They definitely encourage healthy eating with the cooking classes they do, but I don't know what I haven't looked into like if they have a specific protocol as far as what's in their kitchen, what they serve and everything. But Gerson therapy, the Gerson Center, they're reversing cancer with a very specific protocol. That protocol, I don't want to get too many into the nitty gritty, but it's mostly juices, like sprouts and juices. And the reason, like even Hippocrates Institute sprouts and juices, because with juices, with fruit, fresh fruit, the glutamate is so low that it allows your body to reduce the inflammation. Because when you have inflammatory things, or you have glutamate that could contribute and just stimulate in a very healthy manner, but it's stimulating the neurons. If you learn about the neuroscience, you will understand this in a very, very deep way that will allow you to heal your own self much, much further, long-term, in the moment and long-term. You learn how the glutamate, even from the healthy foods like legumes and grains, stimulates the body. And so if you have inflammation there, if you have disease there, then the grains or legumes can be stimulating to, and can be provoking to that inflammation. And so the places that are doing the most healing, like in the most intense situations, like cancer, they're going to remove those things. And glutamate does promote cancer. Glucose is food for cancer, and glutamate is food for cancer. Depends on the cancer, whether one is more than the other, but they can be converted from one to the other. And so they're actually both contributing. And glutamine, some articles will talk about glutamine as being fuel for cancer, but the glutamine is actually being converted to glutamate. And so it's actually the glutamate that is the root issue, but a lot of times the science I'm reading, they don't want to use the term glutamate. They use the term glutamine. People are taking glutamine to heal the gut, and they talk about the benefits of glutamine for the gut, but they don't talk about the effects of glutamine on the rest of the body. It gets into the bloodstream and it's affecting the rest of the body. It's a sad thing that we're being marketed based on partial information, partial truths. We're not being told the whole story. Squash and eggplant, the same, 2 cups of squash. The squash is thicker than the eggplant. It still has a lot of water like the eggplant does, but I think, yes, start with 2 cups, and then you could just adjust the dryness or the dry goods in the recipe. When you're mixing the burger all together, you can adjust so that the consistency is what you're wanting. Angela, you're welcome for the recipe. The broccoli sprouts, you know, the other piece of like why sprouts are so great, because amino acids are fantastic. We don't want like a no protein diet. I'm not suggesting that, but the amino acid profile in our vegetables is, and especially like our leafy greens and our other vegetables, like not the nightshades, the other vegetables, the leafy greens, the cruciferous vegetables, the amino acid profile is more balanced with more higher amounts of the other amino acids rather than just glutamate. And so sprouts especially are a fantastic source of protein and lots of those really beneficial amino acids with less of the glutamate. That's why they don't taste as savory and as delicious as the cooked lentils, right? There's a difference. I will share the recipe again. Maybe I don't think I shared it just to one person. It's up there if you've been with us, but I'll share it again. I'm going to share this one. I'm going to share has both the burger and the secret sauce combined. It's all in one. Thank you so much for being here with me as well. I so love being with you guys. And I really could go on and on forever about this. A couple little things I learned about the connection between NMDA, just you know, amazing, these connections between glutamate and NMDA, which is a stimulating drug, right? The MSG that, like as a health conscious community, most people want to avoid is just the tip of the iceberg. Tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to this story, and I would love for you to join me on this journey into the magic of umami. Going to share the link to it again if you want to join us. That would be amazing. I would love to have you with us. Yeah, I can't. I'll be doing a TED talk on it at some point, but if you deal with chronic disease, inflammation, pain, stress in your life, tension in your muscles, uncomfortability in your body in any way, or your mind, anxiety, addiction, or you're interested in neuroplasticity and changing and rewiring your brain, the glutamate has a role in all of that, all of it. That's, you know, the neuroplasticity, I love that too, and rewiring and changing and bettering ourselves, improving ourselves. And again, fascination, how the glutamate plays a role and how can we leverage it to be promoting neuroplasticity in a positive way and avoiding attachment and addiction, or in a healthy manner, making sure that we don't develop unhealthy attachments or attachments that are so strong they become an addiction. Even if they were once positive attachments, we don't want too much attachment to anything. And so how do we leverage? Glutamate is, I'm telling you, the cutting edge science, cutting edge molecule, like at the core of our food and our pharmaceutical, but also now for personal development at the core of this from a biochemical, from a neurochemical standpoint. It's really at the core. And so if you want to learn more so you can be applying that information in all these different areas of your life, then please join me. I would love to see you there. We're going to have 3 cooking classes. We're going to have a umami rich cooking class with so much deliciousness. And then we're going to have one that is more for the people that have refined their taste buds and enjoying the delicious savoriness through whole foods at a really great level. And then one that's a little bit even cleaner and we're able to recognize the savoriness in the foods that are the most healing for people that are dealing with chronic disease and inflammation. So I'm going to show you the different scales of savoriness and how we can really leverage all of them in our diet so that we can do the best for ourselves and our family and our community. So if you want to join me and get that science, I'm telling you, you're not going to find it elsewhere. You can read the books. I highly recommend books like this. If you're interested and you really don't want to join me for the masterclass, you can get the book. It's called Excitotoxins. This is the most scientific that's also easy to understand. There's other ones that are less science, and there's others that are much, much more, textbooks like. I'm going to break it down for you and give you the science, what's most important, and put the pieces together, because this book is fantastic, but it's 30 years old. And they've known this information for 30, 50, 70 years. In the 50s, it was actually discovered in the early 20th century, glutamates, but who knows about it? They've kept it secret for good reason. And now they're promoting it as a fantastic ingredient. Chefs are keeping salt, pepper, and MSG on their front line to add to your food at the very last minute. Needs a little bit more savoriness, needs a little bit more salt so people get more addicted. They like it more. They give us more, better reviews. They come back. They're using it for their benefit. Learn about it for yourself, whether it's with me or through the textbooks. It's going to be really hard to learn about it on Google. I don't recommend it because they're going to give you only partial truths. But I do encourage you to learn about it because you can leverage it so much more. So thank you so much for joining us today. I did share the most recent link I shared above, what's the class if you want to join us for the Magic of Umami class, but also the recipes. They both are in the link above. Thank you for joining me. And I look forward to seeing you, working with you in the Magic of Umami class. If you decide to join us, that would be fantastic. I will send out the replay as well to this, paired with the one that we started on YouTube. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you. Have a delicious holiday weekend. Enjoy the burgers and the secret sauce. And I will see you hopefully soon. Bye, everyone.